In the city of Solitude, just past the Winking Skeever Inn, we find an Argonian named Jaree-Ra suspiciously standing in the shadows.
You're passing through Solitude? Maybe you're looking to make some easy gold, yes?
Well, Easy Gold is my middle name. What did you have in mind?
It's easy to find things to sell. Things nobody will miss. Things from underground, or just left lying around in someone's house. I bet the two of us, we're very alike. So why not take the next step? We can help each other. My sister Deeja and I are treasure hunters. We like to collect things.
Listen, buddy, before you go any further, you should know that I ain't no thief.
Of course not. Thieves take what is precious. Thieves steal. We just take what will not be missed, what no one needs anymore. Maybe we take some weapons and stop a few deaths. Who would call that thievery?
All right, you have my attention.
I knew you looked like a clever one. With the war, many more ships come through these docks, loaded with weapons and pay, but few people, and they pass through dangerous waters. We have an interest in one of those boats, the Icerunner. The Solitude Lighthouse will be guiding it in, but if its fire were to go out, the Icerunner would run aground.
So you want me to put out the lighthouse fire?
What an interesting idea. I think if someone were to do something like that, there would definitely be a certain amount of loot to be shared. Yes, if someone were to put out the lighthouse fire and then meet me on the docks afterwards, I could certainly direct them to that loot.
And so we begin the quest, Lights Out. But Jerry, what will happen to the sailors on the boat? Won't they all be killed?
Don't worry about them. We'll make sure they wash up safe. Maybe they'll even pay us for their heroic rescue from their sad crash.
You know, what you're doing is bordering on evil. I really should turn you into the guards.
Turn me in? For what? What crime's been committed? I'm just making idle talk about what would most undoubtedly be a tragic event. A tragic and very, very profitable event. It would be best if we spoke little until you've completed your task.
Jaree-Ra walks off, promising to meet up with us again after we've extinguished the flame on top of the Solitude Lighthouse. To get there, we have to travel northeast from Solitude, over a bridge that runs next to the East Empire Company warehouse, and then follow a path north along the coast. Climbing up on top of a boulder, we can look out across the waves and spot the Solitude Lighthouse off in the distance. I had a bit of trouble reaching the lighthouse in my playthrough. I'm sure there was an easier way, but I continued traveling northwest until the rocky path beneath my feet turned to snow. Slowly making my way down the side of the cliff and then passing by a dock with a rowboat tied to it, I eventually found myself at the foot of the Solitude Lighthouse. After passing through the entrance, we notice that there's a winding staircase that likely leads to the top, and an apprentice-locked door to the north. Inside, we find a Khajiit named Mazaka, who warns us multiple times to leave.
Last warning, leave now. I'm warning you, back off.
If we refuse, he eventually becomes hostile, forcing us to strike him down.
Never should have come here.
On his body, we find some loot and the key to the Solitude Lighthouse. This is presumably what Mazaka used to lock and unlock the door we passed through earlier. There's a bunch of food spread out on various shelves and tables throughout the room. Seems like Mazaka had been stationed at Solitude Lighthouse for a long period of time. There's a bedroom to the north with an unlocked chest inside of it, and next to the bed we find a coin purse along with a copy of Horker Attacks sitting on a nightstand. Heading back out into the hallway, we can turn to the east and follow a winding staircase up to the top of Solitude Lighthouse. There's a roaring fire on top of the lighthouse. To us, it's nothing more than flames and embers. But to hundreds more, this fire serves as a beacon of hope, a light that they can rely on to guide them home. It's time to turn out that light and let the cards fall where they may. Feeling a sense of remorse and unrelenting guilt, We can fast travel back to the East Empire Company warehouse. Sure enough, we find Jaree-Ra waiting for us on the docks, just like he said he would be.
Looks like you had no trouble.
It's done. I put out the fire.
The effects have already been felt. The Icerunner has failed to dock on time. Without the lighthouse, the Icerunner will have swung wide of the western shoal and run aground on the eastern coast. My sister Deeja will be at the wreck with our Black Blood marauders. She knows to expect you.
We now have to make our way northeast to meet up with Jerry's sister Deeja at the wreck of the Icerunner. We can't fast travel there because this is an undiscovered location, so we're left with no choice but to make the journey on foot. And besides, it was a nice day for a swim. After passing through a small pond and trekking across a barren rocky landscape, the Icerunner eventually comes into view off in the distance. As we approach, we can dive down to find an apprentice-locked chest with some loot inside. After making our way on board the Icerunner, we notice that 2 of Jaree-Ra's men are getting ready to engage in combat with something. Maybe some horkers? Slaughterfish? In any event, after passing through a door to the north, we can head down into the bowels of the Icerunner, which is honestly more elaborate than I thought it would be. There's multiple bedrooms, long hallways, shelves, dining tables. It's an impressive ship. In one of the rooms, we find an imperial soldier lying in a pool of blood on the floor. The Black Bloods must have slaughtered him after they hijacked the ship. But if that's the case, then that means that Jaree-Ra lied to us when we asked whether or not the soldiers would die. Who are these people? And can we really trust them moving forward? After heading north down a set of stairs and passing through a door, we find Deeja waiting for us.
My brother told me you were coming. I'm supposed to give you what you've earned.
Right. So we're splitting the loot then.
Ha! I'm afraid the loot's already been moved. You've been useful to the Black Bloods, though. You've earned a quick death.
What was that?
That's what you want.
With Deeja dead, we can loot her body and find a note from Jaree-Ra. Sister, once you have picked up the packages, send them on to me at Oar Grotto. The fool who did our work at the lighthouse should arrive shortly thereafter. Make sure he is taken care of. Now I see, this whole thing has been a setup. They never intended on splitting the loot with us. We were just a pawn that they were going to simply dispose of once we were of no more use to them. Looks like we're going to have to fight our way out of the ship and then find Jaree-Ra to put a blade straight through him.
Ha! Found you! Oh!
The note to Deeja said that we can find Jaree-Ra and the loot at Oar Grotto, which is located to the northwest of the Icerunner and appears to be one of the northernmost locations on the map. Since Oar Grotto is an undiscovered location, we can instead fast travel to Oar Grotto and then make our way on foot from there. Upon our arrival at Oar Grotto, we find an unlocked chest wedged between the walls of a cliff. It's an odd place to find a chest, but there's a generous amount of loot inside, so that's all that matters. From there, we can follow the coast west until we come to the edge of a cliff. Peering down through the night, we spot several rowboats and what appears to be a campfire, throwing smoke high into the air. After making our way down the cliff, we realize that this is the entrance to Oar Grotto. We find ourselves inside of a large sea cave, with a wrecked ship to our north and some rather elaborate scaffolding to the east. On top of the scaffolding are 2 Black Bloods in the middle of a conversation. Let's listen in.
Well, before that cave-in sealed our ships in here, lieutenant-sized ship we wanted.
Where did you keep all that? I've been here almost a year and haven't seen any.
The captain has it locked away in that drowned ship by his quarters. He says it's to keep it safe, but I know he's just keeping it for himself.
Get your hands on the treasure.
Get out of here.
And never look back.
Maybe.
Suddenly, the Black Bloods attack.
Over here.
After looting their bodies, we can follow a path that runs along the perimeter of broken Oar Grotto. There's a bin to the southeast with 3 pieces of venison inside. It's not exactly veal chops, but it'll suffice. And just up ahead, we find a chest with some loot inside. As we continue to follow the path to the north, we eventually come to a drawbridge that looks like it can be lowered by activating a nearby lever. We'll come back to the bridge later, but first we can head east down a dark, winding passageway. After taking out 2 more Black Bloods, we can explore this chamber that we found ourselves in, being careful not to ignite the oil that has flooded the wooden floorboards beneath our feet. There's a shelf along the western wall with a potion of healing, some food and wine, and more venison. These people sure do like their meat. Next to the shelf is a chest with some loot inside, and on a nearby dining table we find some food but nothing of interest. Heading east, we find ourselves in another small chamber with a chest against the back wall. There are some steps leading up to a platform, upon which we can loot a coin purse and a couple of pieces of gold. Looking out across a nearby ledge, we can see a sunken ship next to some kind of hut perched on top of more scaffolding. This must be Jaree-Ra's living quarters. Up ahead is another Black Blood that we can cut down with a single swing of our sword, but sadly he falls off the side of the cliff before we have a chance to loot his body. The path continues to the north and then loops around toward Jaree's living quarters. After taking out another Black Blood who was right in the middle of chopping up some wood, we get attacked by a small army that comes rushing out of the living quarters. Among them is Jaree-Ra himself. In the middle of the battle, I accidentally stepped off the side of a cliff and fell onto a lower level. This ended up being a good thing though, as I was now able to use the pools of oil to my advantage.
Like the bite of a flea.
Victory is yours. I submit. It's not the...
With all of the Black Blood Marauders taken care of, we can make our way into Jaree-Ra's living quarters, where we find the Icerunner chest. Inside is a flawless ruby, 149 gold, a scroll of mayhem, some iron arrows, and a valuable glass battle axe. There's some studded armor next to the chest, and on a nearby table we can loot 3 coin purses, several pieces of gold, and a potion of healing. Also on the table we find Hargar's journal. On the 8th of Evening Star, Hargar wrote, "Jaree-Ra is up to something big. He wouldn't tell me exactly, all he said was, it'll be just like the good old days, before the cave-in sealed your boats in there. We can't send our ships out of here anymore. What is he hinting at?" The way I understand it, Jaree-Ra was essentially using the Black Bloods as pawns because they had access to naval ships, which he could use to intercept imperial vessels and rob them of everything they've got. After a cave-in trapped the boats inside of broken Oar Grotto, they obviously couldn't carry out their pirate-like excursions anymore, so they went into hiding. That is, until Jaree-Ra came up with the plan to ambush the Icerunner. On the 14th, Hargar wrote, "He wants to know what loot we have saved up. I don't care what he says, I'm not telling him anything about my stash. It stays down there where it's safe. I can't imagine he'd ever jump into this murky water, let alone swim down to the sunken boat. Sounds like Hargar's treasure is in that sunken boat we saw earlier. We'll dive down later and see if we can find it." A week later, Hargar wrote, "It's on. Jaree-Ra and his sister Deeja have something cooked up. All they need is a scapegoat. I wonder where they'll find someone dumb enough to do what they say. There's bound to be someone out there who will. Well, Hargar, we may have played right into your little trap, but at the end of the day, we're the ones that ended up having the last laugh. Just around the corner, there's another unlocked chest with some loot inside, and on a nearby shelf, we find a couple of books and other miscellaneous items. There's a blacksmithing station to the north with a number of iron and steel weapons in the surrounding area, and to the south we find a couple of archery targets set up. Looks like when they weren't out robbing Imperial ships, the Blackbloods spent much of their time training to become better shots. After all is said and done, the only thing left to do is jump into the water and see if we can find Hargar's treasure near the sunken ship. Sure enough, just below the surface on the top deck of the vessel, we find a master-locked chest that contains 105 gold, another glass battle axe, and some other loot. And that just about does it. With our pockets full of gold coins and valuable gems, we can head west and exit Broken Oar Grotto. What surprised me most about this quest was how many moving parts there were. What I thought was going to be a short and simple quest turned out to be an elaborate tale of thievery, deception, and of course, hidden treasure. I have to admit, Bethesda did a good job when it came to eliciting my emotions throughout this quest. I felt genuinely frustrated upon finding out that Jaree-Ra had stabbed me in the back, and confronting him face to face inside of Broken Oar Grotto was extremely satisfying. As I said before, we may have fallen into this trap, but we were the ones having the last laugh. But I'd love to know what you think, folks. Did you feel any remorse after you put out the flame on top of the Solitude Lighthouse and doomed the sailors on the Icerunner to a rather gruesome fate? Were you as surprised as I was when Jaree-Ra and his sister Deeja turned on you? Or did you see it coming from a mile away? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, consider clicking on the thumbs up icon below to show your support, or better yet, subscribe to my channel so that you can stay up to date on all of my latest content. I post new videos on Skyrim every single Friday, ladies and gentlemen, so be sure to check back next week for more Skyrim lore, commentary, and analysis. For those who are fans of the Fallout franchise, I also post lore videos on Fallout 4 every Tuesday, so be sure to check those out as well. But that's all for now, folks. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.